it's a long process sometimes. Yeah, we just finished the trade call actually, so it's good. Well, welcome everybody.
You want to go through the moves you made today?
Well, we, as we know, we traded for Mikko Rantanen, and anytime you have an opportunity to acquire one of the top players in the game, it's something you have to look into. There was a price we paid for it. I want to thank Logan Stankoven, a great young man, player that we drafted, developed on our team, and just a great young man. I just finished talking to him, and that's where the business is tough, but it's part of the business, and we were fortunate to attain a great player.
Do you have any other moves or just Rantanen?
Yeah, that was the only move today. We did the trade with Granlund and CC. That's about just before the Four Nations tournament. So kind of two moves there, and then we've agreed to terms with Wyatt Johnson. That's the other thing we accomplished today. So it's good.
What made now the right time? I know you talked even after the CC and Granlund trades about being a little bit concerned about organizational depth. What made this deal too good to pass up?
Well, anytime, as I mentioned, anytime you have an opportunity to attain a top player in this league, and at the right age, he's in the prime of his career. As I mentioned, one of the top forwards in the game. We think he's a great fit for us. The connection with the Finns on our team and that, and as we've all seen, everybody in this room here, we've watched him play against us, for the last 6, 7, 8 years, and everybody knows how accomplished a player he is. So it's an opportunity, and we just thought it was, not very often when you've got a solid team to have the opportunity to add a player like that. There was a cost to it, but the opportunity to add something, it's something we had to look into.
How did you make that decision of Stankoven being the piece you were willing to part with to get Rantanen?
Well, it's the other team has given up a great asset, and they want assets back, and they made it very clear that the Logan was the player they wanted back. So that's a compliment to Logan, and they got a good player. I've talked to their general manager and their staff, and they've got a great young man there, and he's going to be a great player for a long time.
Did you all get much sleep last night, or is this one that you've
No, it's been about it's been about 2 nights in a row here. It's been kind of a grind. A lot of it came together early this morning, and there's a component to it. You not only you got to get the rights to trade for the player. We wanted to make sure before we did the trade that he was signed to an extension, and so you got to go through that process with his representatives, which was very smooth. They did a great job. I want to thank them. But there's pieces to the puzzle that have to work out for everybody.
How long was this? How long were you interested in this move? How did it kind of come about?
Well, when I want to say probably 2 weeks ago, it became kind of clear. Everybody started to hear that he wasn't going to sign there, and now that doesn't mean Carolina could keep him, but we just kept we kept listening to see what was going to happen, and eventually Carolina started to reach out to teams that he would have interest coming to, and we were one of the teams that was on his list that he would potentially get traded to and maybe potentially sign with, and so that's when it started.
How did you kind of combine? It's interesting that you have Harley, Wyatt, Mikko, all same agent. So how did you kind of combine that to make it work the right way and announce both basically at the same time? Yeah,
well, you kind of keep it separate, but this was such a big. It's a big transaction, and we're managing our roster. We have to manage our cap that goes with the roster, and with the contract that he agreed to, there's other pieces that have to fit into the puzzle, and so it was important. I've been talking to Wyatt's representatives for quite a while. We've been working on this goes back to probably November, so this has been something we've been working on, and we just thought this was maybe the perfect time to bring it together. We're adding a major piece. Wyatt's a big part of our team, and we wanted to make sure that he'd fit into the right slot also. So it was just the right time for it all.
How are you feeling about the state of your defensemen right now, and were there conversations about adding some more depth there?
We talked about adding depth. We're comfortable. Miro's going to come back. Not sure the time frame, but we're going to get Miro back. And I think the evolution of some of our defensemen kind of helped. Thomas Harley's gone to another level. He's showing that he's an elite player now, and he's gone another level. And I think some of our other defensemen, the Ambitial has come up. We've added him, so we're comfortable where the young guys are at, and how the veterans are playing. And we have some pretty good depth down in Austin too. So we're pretty comfortable where that is.
And what was the reason for putting Miro on LTIR?
If we wanted to do any other moves, we would have had to. Yeah, if all of a sudden at 1:30 something came upon us that we'd have to make a move, if he's not, you wouldn't be able to do it. So we just wanted to make sure we're covered that way. Yeah.
What does a player like Rantanen bring to your group that maybe you didn't have already?
Well, first of all, just no, we have skill. We're a high skill team, but you're adding to it even more skill. So it adds more skill to us. He's a big body. He's a big man. He's 6'4". He works down low well, works in the corner. So I think we've added to our size. But really, it's just a combination of who he is as a player. He's an elite player. Been one of the leading scorers in the league over the last 4 or 5 years. Playoff success is a big part of it. He's in his prime, and he's a high-end character player. I've talked to people. I got a chance to meet him a little bit at the Four Nations. I laugh every time we play Colorado, and there's kind of a back room, hallway back there. He's always with our Finns and that, so I've kind of met him before with all, Kevin Ranta's there and that, so I always get a chance to meet him. But really a classy young man, and going to be a great fit for us.
Was there any conversation about him being a rental, and was that just maybe too high of an asking price, or were you guys set on has to be an extension?
Yeah, we're set on the extension. The price changes for a rental, and if you see some of the rental prices going on right now, it would have been a high price for a rental also. So once we started going that path, we saw that this is somebody we'd like to add. So we right from day one, the focus was on having the potential to try to sign him.
What's your level of confidence on when, or either Heiskanen or Sagan, possibility before the end of the season, and how healthy they'll be when they come back?
They're going to be towards the end of the season or the start of the playoffs. It's going to be, it's always hard to tell with players injured. They're feeling good, but their time frame is towards the end of the season and the start of the playoffs. Does that change a little bit 1 week here either way? You don't know really till they start skating and get into the more intense part of their training.
How does it make you feel looking at that forward group with Sagan, obviously, but even without him, it's a pretty stacked group?
It's a very stacked group. It's a good group to start with, and now you've added him. So it's a very potent offense. I like our mix. The reason we're able to make this move, one of the questions was about the assets and the draft picks we're moving, is we've got a good mix of different ages. I've talked about this with you guys before. We got the younger kids, first, second year guys. We got the middle group, the Rupi Hentzes, the Robertsons, Ottingers, and then we got the veterans. And it's a good mix that way. We added Granlund, who is a great veteran presence. So got a good mix, and they seem to really get along well. They make each other accountable, which is important. So it gives, as an organization, it gives us lots of different options.
Jim, will Rantanen play tomorrow in Edmonton?
Yes, he's on his way. He's going to leave at 7. He's got around a 7 o'clock flight from Raleigh, so he'll be flying right to Edmonton.
And Jim, building on that, what about the time frame to get him up? 20 games left in the season. It's a short runway here to get him ready to go for the playoffs too. What's your expectations there for him to catch up to speed here quickly?
Yeah, that's always the challenge when you come out of the trade deadline, and that was one of the reasons when we traded for Ceci and Granlund. We knew we had more time to let them, build themselves into the team. So it was a short window, but pretty comfortable. He's, as I mentioned, he's good friends with the Finns. Rupi Hintz and him are really good friends. He's played with Granlund, so there's some connection there. And high-level players, they adapt pretty quick. And I think he's going to adapt to our style pretty quick. We play a fast-paced puck possession game. I think he'll be a good fit that way. He's great on the sideboards, one-timer. I think he's going to even add more to our power play as we move forward. So he gives us lots of different looks and different options.
Have you had a chance to talk to Pete about the moves you made, and what was his kind of reaction to?
I talked to Pete this morning. At that time, I didn't think nothing was going to happen. We're in that part of the process where I didn't think it was going to happen. They're getting ready to fly out, and I talked to him just before I actually just was able to text to him just before they took off. But he's very excited. We had talked about this before, 3 or 4 days before. I brought him up to speed what's going on, and he's excited about it. Gives him lots of different options, different looks, and like I said, it adds another element to our team, which I think makes us very dangerous.
You talk a lot about setting your team up for long-term success, both next year, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Parting with those picks is not something you do very often, but can you kind of talk us through why now is the right time to make this move?
Yeah, you're dead on. Shake my head sometimes, but then no, you know what? It's really what I taught. It's where our team is. I talked about the mix of our team, and I get back to any time you can add an elite player. You know, usually those type of players you got to draft and develop, and they come along. And when you're a good team, you're not going to be drafting those type of players. And I've been giving away some picks a little bit over the last few years. So anytime you can add a player like this, he's already developed, he's already mature in the league, you're gonna have to give up something to do it, but it's worth it because I get back. He's in the prime of his career. So to give up those picks, you know, where we're picking now in the draft, it's a first round pick, but it's a later pick. Will I get it, Mikko Rantanen? I don't know if I will. You hope you do, but you never know. So I know I got him, and that's the juggling. That's the balancing act. Is you know, to get you got to give, and so you know that's how we balanced it. And I think it's a little bit where our team's at right now. I think we're, you know, right now we're third overall in the league. We're a good team. You know, I think we're going to make the playoffs. I hope so, and this gives us a good chance. So we're all in, and but I, you know, it's also a compliment to our scouting staff because they give me this opportunity with the players. You know, Logan Stankoven, who we just traded away, Maverick Borks, White Johnsons. They found elite players for us that step into our lineup, and that affords me the opportunity to kind of have a little gap here.
Jim, for the salary cap for next year, obviously adding a $12 million forward may have changed some of those longer term plans. Did that also factor into doing 5 years for Wyatt as opposed to maybe doing 7 years?
Yeah, we had to fit in the right numbers. It's, you know, we're going to be juggling here for a while. It's going to, you know, the cap's taking a pretty good jump this way, but we've got a lot of younger players. You know, the Ottingers, money's kicking in. You know, Wyatt's kicking in now, so different players jumping in. So we do have to manage that. That's a big part of it. But we're pretty comfortable where we're at. We think we got a good read on it. And the good thing is when you have good players and you got to play them lots, it's a good problem to have. And we'll find a way to make it work.
Is that part of the equation when you think about Harley, Robertson, you know, Bork, Johnson, Stankoven? Like eventually you may price yourself out of the guys you had in the room to begin with. So is that kind of part of the equation of being able to let go of one of them to get somebody like
Yeah,
Robertson?
yeah. Eventually, they're going to want their money, and they should. And I hope they do. I get back to it's a good problem to have. When you got good players, and you got to pay them, it's a good problem. We'll find a way to make it work. We may have to make some tough decisions, but good problems to have.
Jim, more of a philosophical thing, but when you're negotiating an extension like the one you just did with Mikko, is the market shifting more to where the AAV number is still the big determining factor, or is it percentage of the cap because of how much the cap is going to jump over the next few years? Have you been able to determine that a little bit, just big picture, where maybe it's going?
Yeah, the big part is the percentage of the cap. You know, the cap, as we know, because of COVID and where everything coming out of that has been very flat for a few years, and now it's starting to jump, and so that's a big part of it. And you know, I think the skill level's never been better in the league. We had more elite players. I think the elite players are going to start grabbing more of the percentage of the cap, which they should. They're the ones that put on the entertainment. So that's kind of the juggling act. But it's the cap is going up. The players are going to want to. They should be paid fairly, and that's the part we have to manage.
Stanley Cup playoffs are a different level. There's injuries. There's guys that go cold offensively. You've seen it firsthand a few times. Rantanen has been incredible in playoffs. How much of that came in as a factor, and is that something that you want to make sure you have that extra layer of depth?
Well, yeah, his resume speaks for itself, what he's done. You know, he's won the Stanley Cup. Anytime you win a cup, and he's been one of the top performers, as you mentioned, in the playoffs. So that's a big part of who he is, and that's a big part of why we wanted to add him.
have the last couple days, where do they rank in the different trade deadlines you've had over the years? I imagine they've been probably one of the more complex.
They've been all over the map. It's funny how some days you come in and you just got a good feeling, like, okay, I know what's going to happen, and bang, 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 it happens. Other times you go in and it's a roller coaster. This was a real roller coaster. This one was a real roller coaster. And a little bit because you're talking some pretty special players and that. And so there's going to, you got to remember, we're not the only team out there trying to get better. The other guys are trying to win too, and everybody knows who some of these elite players are. There's Mikko, there's other elite players out there, and so it was an interesting, just a different dynamics, I guess, to this, just because of some of the players available and the circumstances surrounding it.
Where do you rank this group of all the playoff teams you've had getting ready for them? Where would you rank this group?
I'm proud of this group. We've been through a lot. Long playoff run the last couple of years. Came out of training camp. We go to Finland, the long trip and that, and they managed that well. We've had a lot of injuries. One day you wake up and Tyler Sagan, December 1st, is getting operated on, gone for, it looks like most of the season, hopefully getting back in the playoffs. Miro Heiskanen unfortunately got hurt here just before the Four Nations. So different things have really happened this year. But I'm really proud of the team, the coaching staff, how we've been very consistent. We haven't lost 3 games in a row. I get back to it, and this is a little bit, people get tired of me saying this, but I sit up there and I know we got a chance to win every night. And it doesn't mean we're going to win every night, but I know we got a chance, and that's a pretty good feeling, as a manager, as a coach, as a player, that, hey, we got a chance tonight. And that's, we've had some games where we've really struggled. I go back to the Columbus game, and we just didn't have it. Still a chance to get a point. And that's shows you got good character in this room, and you got players that care.
Other than maybe getting some sleep, what are you most excited about moving forward now?
Well, now you just sit back. Let's see how it all comes together. Coaches got to figure out lines. We're going to have some injured players coming back. We're going to have to integrate back in. You just want to see it all come together now. But it's exciting times. The hockey's been outstanding. This league is in a good spot. We just went through that Four Nations. What a great testament for our league and our sport. That was. So I think our game's in a good spot, and it's exciting times right now.
Great. Thanks, Jim.
Yep, everybody good? Thanks.